Well, good morning, everybody. Sorry my report's about a half hour late this morning. I had a problem with my recording software, but we got it fixed, and so we're back up and running. And let's take a look at a map that shows the last 72 hours of snowfall. So this was through this morning. And we can see that the system that has been the part of the bigger change in the Pacific Northwest where this has all started has really delivered some good snow to parts of the Cascades and much of the Rocky Mountains here. Some of that snow this morning is spreading into parts of eastern Montana and the western Dakotas. Now, when we look at this same map but flip it over to total accumulated precipitation, now we can start to see where those storms really erupted last night. And we saw some wind reports in here over 60 miles an hour and also hail, 1 to 2 inch hail out of some of these storms. Now, the synoptic scale winds, those are the large scale winds around this low pressure system, were quite strong. And as the main front kind of built down here farther to the south, where we're going to be watching a lot of rain coming out of this area, heading this direction over the next 48 hours or so. As that front was developing here, again, we saw just a significant amount of wind across this whole thing. And the problem was the soil's been so very dry here. We've been looking at this now for the last month or so about how quickly we've developed drought back in the midsection of the country. We have 82% of the lower 48 in some form of drought. And a lot of the recent development has been on and around the Mississippi water basin. Now, as we were watching the storms that were coming out here last night, I was keeping an eye on them on satellite because the synoptic scale winds were so strong that we were getting, a pretty sizable dust storm out of this. You can even see some of the field fires right in through here as things got started. So this blew a lot of debris, including dust and sand and dirt, plus a lot of the harvest debris before the storms really began to pop on this line. Well, today that first storm system is going to be moving in this direction. Behind it, we still have the winter weather advisories, a couple places with winter storm warnings. Going to have some strong winds around this. Out ahead of it, before the rain gets here, we do have a fire weather outlook for this area just due to dry conditions and very windy conditions. But a lot of the blues you see on the backside here represent frost advisories, freeze warnings, and this color up here still represents the winter weather advisories that are in place. And we're going to continue to see a pretty significant change in this pattern that's going to last through the beginning of November. Okay, in terms of severe weather, we're going to watch the tail end of a front late tonight come through this region, which is why the Storm Prediction Center's issued a slight risk. And then we look into tomorrow on Tuesday, we're going to watch that front overnight into the early morning hours, move over the lower Mississippi River Valley into Mississippi, Alabama, and parts of Tennessee. Best way to see that is just going straight to our high-res NAM model. Let's start this off at 9 o'clock this morning. And so we're going to be watching really 4 things here. Let's start east to west. We still have a weak upper level low that's delivering some showers to New England. We then have the system that's exiting the Red River Valley of the north and one that's developing over the Red River Valley of the south. And then, of course, more of these systems are coming around the deeper troughs of low pressure that are in the Gulf of Alaska. That's really been the main point of change in this pattern. So let's start off at 9 o'clock this morning Central Time and just play through the day today. So what we're going to see is snow building into the Dakotas. The main frontal boundary right in through this area is where we expect to see some heavier rains. Could be in parts of Iowa, Missouri, eastern Kansas, and Oklahoma. But there's a second shortwave that follows this coming out of Texas tonight, and that's going to be the one we're going to watch right in through here for the potential for those stronger storms late tonight. And this upper level low is going to ride this front right from Texas into eastern Oklahoma. There it is. Here's the front I told you be crossing the Mississippi River in the morning. And then we're going to watch for stronger storms later in the day here as the low moves through Missouri and eventually heads toward Illinois, parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio right there. That's kind of what we're going to see from Tuesday night in through Wednesday morning. Now, as that low begins to move over the eastern Great Lakes by midday Wednesday, there's another system that's coming behind it. We're going to take a look at the European model to see where that one goes. But overall, over the next 7 days, this is total accumulated precipitation from the WPC. What's important about this is to see how far the western extent of this precipitation makes it into our hard red winter wheat belt here. You can see that the heaviest rains in Kansas are farther to the east and over Oklahoma. There will be a pocket in through here that picks up better than 3 inches of rain out of this system, or these next few systems, I should say. But it's going to take a while for that water to get into the soil, into the tributaries, and eventually into the Mississippi River Basin, which is why when you look here at Memphis, all the way through November the 6th, we're not expecting much of a change overall in the river depth. It's going to take quite some time, which we talked about in Friday's report. Hopefully you got a chance to see that. But as I said, let's get over to the European model and see where all of these things go. So we've seen today, let's zoom in one more time. There we go. So let's play through Monday into Tuesday, and let's park this out here Wednesday morning where the other model left off. So we're going to see the first system we were discussing here coming out of Texas kind of make its way into much of New England. Here's the system that follows it. Came through the northwest, spreading some more snow in the Rockies, and it emerges down here in the panhandles. And this is by Friday morning. Okay, so at the end of this week, we're going to watch down here in the south, moving toward the lower Mississippi River Basin, better chances for rainfall, and probably see some stronger storms there. But then as we get into the weekend, Saturday, this large area of high pressure is going to really prevent this from being able to move quickly to the north, but we have another system behind it coming into the Pacific Northwest. We just got to keep an eye on those systems because this next one, early next week, could dip down into California. And the two major things I'm watching from now to April, all right, is how much moisture comes in the west, because we have a substantial drought problem, of course, going on there, and we need to build up that snowpack, especially in the Sierra Nevada and the Cascades and the Central Rockies. Then I'm going to be watching how each one of these systems starts to rebuild the moisture profile in the central United States, and of course, how they exit east. All of those components will be important. And just to see that in the near term, this is week 1. This is the week 1 precipitation anomaly over here on the left, and on the right I have the week 2. The good news is the pattern stays open and moving to begin the month of November. And we didn't want to see this kind of flip-flop on us. There was some concern about that, but it's not doing that at this point. So the temperature pattern stays relatively volatile too. Here's Monday's highs compared to normal. You're going to see the warmer air press east with a lot of cooler air coming back into the central United States by Tuesday and Wednesday. Then what we see later in the week is the next deeper wave comes down here on Thursday, dives into the southern plains on Friday, and then it moves off toward the Ohio River Valley by the time we get into the weekend. But you notice that the temperatures just go up and down and up and down, and that's just very characteristic of this point in fall. But if you wanted to really kind of generalize what we're going to see, we're going to have favor more days of colder weather west, with more days of warmer conditions in the plains, the Canadian Prairie, and all points east of there. But it's going to go up and down. You're just going to see more of the warmer days, followed by shots of cooler air. That's what we get in fall. In the report today, one of the big news stories is just I give another review of what's going on with the NOAA Winter Outlook, which they released on the 20th. We just kind of take a look at the figures, and we talk about a failure point. And the failure point that could happen with this this temperature forecast or this precipitation forecast is that, and NOAA's very clear on this as well, the chances for La Nina to really begin a strong fade once we get into the maybe late December, but certainly in the new year, those chances are relatively high. So while we may start a third year of La Nina, which we've already done, we don't know if it's going to continue. There's some pretty strong model evidence that by the time we get into late winter and spring, the trade winds could let go and this temperature pattern can change a lot. So again, this is the symptom. We'll watch for the change in the trade winds to be the cause. Where that will also be important is in South America, where right now over the next 10 days, we do have quite a bit of moisture north. This is here in Brazil's central and northern growing areas. That's likely going to keep their planting pace, which is currently just a shade below where they were a year ago and well above the 5-year average. That's going to keep the planting pace going. Our concerns are down into Argentina, where the bulk of Argentina stays drier, especially along and west of the Paraná River. And this also gets us over into Rio Grande do Sul. But right here, watch this tomorrow and Wednesday. There's a front coming through delivering some of the first rain I've seen in a while into Buenos Aires over toward Cordoba. And they need that rain desperately. It's not going to correct the longer term drought, but it's going to put a bit of a patch on it. So we'll cover it all again in tonight's in-depth report. I'll put that in tomorrow's email, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks.